Welcome to your deep dive. We're tackling clean architecture this time. You know, the one by Robert C. Martin, Uncle Bob, to most of us in the coding world.
Oh yeah, Uncle Bob. This one looks like it's got a lot of good stuff.
Right. All about building software that can actually, handle changes and new features
Yeah.
without completely falling apart. Like how to avoid making code that's basically held together with duct tape and hope.
I've definitely worked on some of those.
Haven't we all? So we're going deep on design architecture. Really, how to avoid creating code that's as fragile as, I don't know, a house of cards.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's like Uncle Bob's giving us a blueprint here, right? For building software that can last, that can evolve.
Exactly. Okay, so I got to say, right from the start, Uncle Bob throws us a bit of a curveball.
Oh.
He says, design and architecture, they're basically the same thing.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know about you, but I always kind of thought those were separate concepts.
Yeah, you kind of think of them in different buckets.
Right.
But I think what he's getting at is the name doesn't really matter, not as much as the goal, right?
Okay.
So whether you call it design or architecture, the focus should be on making systems that are easy to change. And he even says, this is more important than getting everything working perfectly the first time.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. More important than making it work right out of the gate.
That's what he says. Think about it, though.
Right?
Software, it's always changing, right? The requirements change, new technologies pop up. What users want is always evolving.
Yeah.
So if your software is this, like, tangled mess of code, even a tiny change, it feels like you're doing open heart surgery.
Ugh. Tell me about it. I've definitely wrestled with some code that felt like that.
Right, but if your system from the get-go is designed for change, then you can adapt.
Oh, okay.
You can evolve things without pulling your hair out. It's like, if you're renovating a house,
Okay.
it's a lot easier if the house was built on a solid foundation, right?
Yeah.
Compared to one that's like sinking in the sand.
Ah, yeah, good point.
Uncle Bob actually uses this term slippery slope of productivity to describe this, like messy code. It's this vine that slowly strangles the project,
Okay, yeah.
He talks about how software projects, they often start out great, right? Everyone's excited, tons of features are getting pumped out, and it feels like you're, unstoppable.
Oh, yeah, yes, the honeymoon phase.
Yeah, exactly. But then as the code base grows, it gets more complex, things start to slow down,
Right.
adding new features becomes this nightmare, bugs pop up everywhere, and you're suddenly just fighting fires all the time.
Yeah, it's like you hit a wall. Every step forward, you take 2 steps back.
Exactly, and that's where clean architecture steps in. By focusing on making the code maintainable from the start, keeping the design clean and modular, you can avoid that whole downward spiral.
So you're saying build the house on the solid foundation first.
Yeah, make sure it can handle the storms, the changes.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does this, clean architecture idea fit into the whole, I don't know, the history of programming, software development?
It's come a long way, right?
Huge changes over the years. Yeah.
Right. So where does this fit in?
Well, Uncle Bob actually takes us through this whole journey, right? From punch cards, binary code, all the way to, object-oriented programming and beyond.
Wow.
It's pretty fascinating. He shows how each of these, each step, it was basically an attempt to manage complexity, make software easier to understand.
So it's like we've been looking for this holy grail of software development all along.
I think so. A way to build systems that are powerful but also, manageable.
Right. You don't want them to get away from you.
Right. And object-oriented programming, OOP, that was a huge step in that direction.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it brought in the whole idea of bundling data and functions together into these objects, making code more modular, reusable.
Okay.
But Uncle Bob, he argues that OOP is more than just, putting things in neat little boxes.
Oh, he gets into stuff like polymorphism, virtual function tables. That part, I'll be honest, got a little dense.
Yeah, I think I skimmed that section.
Me too, a little bit.
Eh.
But the key idea, as I understood it, is that polymorphism, it lets us write code that can work with different types of objects without knowing all the nitty-gritty details in advance.
Okay.
It's like having a universal remote, right? It can work with any TV, it doesn't matter the brand.
Oh, I get it. That's a good way to think about it.
So we've got object-oriented programming, which has been the big thing for a while. But then Uncle Bob brings up this thing called functional programming.
Yeah, functional programming. That sounded pretty different.
Oh, yeah, it's a whole other way of thinking about software. It focuses on stuff like immutability, meaning data doesn't change once it's created, and side effect-free functions. That basically means functions don't have these unexpected consequences.
Right.
He even gives us a little taste of this language called closure, kind of like a cousin of Lisp, I guess. And get this, in closure, variables don't actually vary. It's like saying a chameleon that never changes its color.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So functional programming, it's like this whole other world.
Can seem a little mind-bending at first,
Yeah.
but it's got some real advantages, especially when you want to make code that's easy to test and make sense of.
So we've got these different programming paradigms, each with their own, I guess, pros and cons.
Right, different tools for different jobs, maybe.
But where does clean architecture fit into all of this? How do we actually use these ideas to build software that's, well, clean?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is, and I think that's what we'll start to unpack next time.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
The how-tos, the practical stuff.
Exactly, how to make this clean architecture thing really work.
Sounds good to me.
All right, see you next time then.
Looking forward to it.